this week's best MMA bets. We're talking UFC Vegas 99. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, most confident picks, favorite underdogs. We'll talk Degen Props of the night and then finish it out with the parlays. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and make sure you share the video too. Last week was fantastic.
Tyra is absolutely exhausted. Brandon Royval's on his back. Royval switching for an arm. Royval's got the armbar. 47 seconds. Brandon Royval now has mount. Oh my God, that was crazy. Royval with the submission attempt. I think he has the rear naked locked. Royval just won the fight. Royval just won the fight. Brandon Royval for the W. 48-47, raw dog Royval. Yeah! What did I say? Underdog lock. Don't doubt me, son. Don't doubt me, son. I call Money Moicano. I called this one. I know something. Show some respect.
Lock of the week, big W. Brandon Royval took it home for us in the main event as a huge underdog. And I'm very happy that I predicted it, but also very happy that we had such a damn good fight. And it was super lit to cash after something that had me sweating bullets, because there was definitely moments for Tyra. I mean, he had Royval's back a couple of times, nearly got in some rear naked chokes, but the striking advantage was so clear for Royval, which I anticipated it would be, and I was grateful to see him get it done. Last week, we also swept this entire show, so if you tailed last week for the damn Vegas 98 card, you made some damn fuego cash. And listen, I'm not telling you to blindly tail. Do your own research. But things are flowing very nicely on this week's best MMA bets. And I'm feeling damn good about what I'm cooking up for this week as well. So without further ado, the lock of the week.
Michelle Demolidor Pereira!
Michelle Pereira, lock of the week. I had to go underdog again. A Brazilian dog called my name. I said Michelle Pereira's the one for me. Looking through the card, I think there's some great confident pick favorites, but I was confident that Pereira was winning, and I'm seeing a plus money line. It just seemed like a sensible lock of the week for me. He's sitting around plus 117. I believe that this version of Michelle Pereira we have now witnessed at 185 is by far the best form that he's ever been in. And you can say, hey, but we haven't seen much, right? He's fought 3 fights at middleweight in the UFC, and he's ran through them. We don't have a lot of time of watching him throw down. Yeah, but he's also destroying guys easily and looking to be a top 10 talent. Not that Hernandez isn't good, right? Fluffy Hernandez beat Roman Kopylov. That, to me, badass win. But Kopylov is not the same level of explosive athlete that Pereira is, nor do I believe that Roman Kopylov carries the same level of knockout power that Michelle Pereira carries either. So I think we're going to see a massive W incoming for the side of Pereira. How does he get it done? Body shots are going to be a major factor. The weakness of Fluffy Hernandez, trust me, is the body. He's got a nice chin. He can take punches and kicks up high. But when you rip him low, it's going to wear him down and it's going to put him down. We saw the sole, knockout loss for him in the UFC against Kevin Holland, right? Right before the win streak began. Let's not forget, Kevin Holland put him down and out with a body knee. And Michelle Pereira has the most vicious body attack at the damn middleweight class right now. And I think he has really come into his own. I mean, he was fighting at 170, and people forget that Pereira's been in the UFC now since his mid-20s. I feel like everybody, including myself, thinks of Pereira as 5 years older than he really is. He's like 31 right now. Pereira's a young man. He's now in his prime. Him doing fairly well down in weight at welterweight, which is not the right weight class for him for years when he was in his 20s, versus today, him 31, primed, ready to rock and roll. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think Michelle Pereira is a goated pick, actually. I really am surprised that he's sitting at plus money. He looks absolutely sensational at 185. I'm glazing the fuck out of him right now, and you can say I'm a glazer of Michel Pereira, but he deserves it because Michel Pereira has the ability to be a legitimate threat to the top 10 in the middleweight division. Not that Fluffy Hernandez isn't a skilled fighter, but on the feet, he is completely outclassed. Yeah, he's a tough boxer with some okay pressure, and he can land punches because of such a substantial grappling threat. But against Michel Pereira, he's a dead man in the striking. He needs to pray he can get this fight to the ground. But Pereira hasn't really shown subpar wrestling in any of his fights. Add on top of that, he's at Extreme Couture. Coming from welterweight up to middleweight, he has a big speed advantage, and I think he's going to put on a dynamic showcase. So obviously, Michel Pereira, exciting pick for me. You got me ranting and raving about him. I'm stoked for this damn main event. Knockout win, plus 175. Win in round number 1 is also interesting at plus 375. And then the under 2.5 at minus 135. The A side is Michel Pereira. I'm saying he gets it done. He remains undefeated in the middleweight division inside of the UFC. And I really think there is a potential for a mega push in 2025. If Pereira wins this fight, he could be on a title track. Think about it. He wins this one, and then imagine he fights Paulo Costa, a fight I've been calling for him for a while. And then from there, he's right in the mix with the top guys. Trains with Sean Strickland. I feel like Michel's ready for the highest level at middleweight, and I think he's going to put it on Fluffy Hernandez. And I honestly believe that Pereira is being completely overlooked by the books. He should be a minus 200 favorite in this fight, not a plus 117 underdog. That's why I'm locking the dog tag of Michel Pereira to take it home. Let's get it. Let's keep running. We got to jump to the next section. We got to talk about my most confident picks on the card. We're going to go one by one. First and foremost, we got Kyler Phillips. I think he's beaten Rob Font. This is not the same Rob Font as, 3-4 years ago. This is a Rob Font that has taken a lot of damage in numerous difficult outings. Now, does Rob Font still have hands? Absolutely. He's a good boxer, but he's so damn one-dimensional, and his boxing skill set is not vastly superior to Kyler Phillips' hands. I think Kyler can box with Rob Font, but on top of being able to box with Rob Font, Kyler Phillips has a way more versatile striking attack. He has good knees, kicks, elbows, and he mixes punches, kicks, knees, elbows together like very few. He is an extremely fluid striker who has a diverse combination of strikes. He's got a really cool style. Very quick on the feet, very light on his feet. And you know what's interesting? The potential for him to be top 5, top 10 has always been there. And he ran into that little Paiva bump, which it should have been a draw 3 years ago. But like 3.5 years ago, he won a clean decision over Song Yadong, and that's aged great. I think that this version of Kyler Phillips, way better than he was 3.5 years ago, and definitely ready to make a run towards the elite of this weight class. And you add into all of it, he trains at MMA Lab with Mario Batista, who, just beat Jose Aldo, put me to sleep. I didn't think he should have got the one based on damage, but that's besides the point. Trains with elite level guys in this damn bantamweight division. O'Malley's at the same team. He's taken on one-dimensional 37-year-old Rob Font, who's trying to rely on pure boxing in 2024 and not being nearly as precise as he was a few years back because age has taken its toll. Nah, this is Kyler Phillips' showcase. Now, he's a minus 400. He's a huge favorite. Decision, minus 140. I do think we're going long. Over 2.5, minus 225. Phillips straight down the center at minus 400 makes sense. Decision win for Phillips. at minus 140 is also very sensible. And I'm anticipating this fight hits that over 2.5 mark, which is minus 225. I'm ranting and raving about Phillips. The way he put it on Munoz was impressive. The way he mixed up combinations in that fight was impressive. He's not somebody to overlook right now. He's a true special talent. And I think that he has finally found his best stride. He's 29. So like, I think when you see a guy at 29 to 31, like, you know, that's when they're really hitting a true prime. I mean, some exceptions to the rules, like Ilia Topuria, John Jones, and, you know, others. But I think this is prime Kyler Phillips versus past his prime Rob Font. And it's going to be Phillips taking home a win, 30-27. Clearly better in the stand-up. Clearly more versatile in the striking. And what's Rob Font going to do? Out-wrestle him? No. He's in for an L. Phillips for the win. Next up, we got more. We're not done yet. Charles Johnson, the inner G. Now, I have seen some pundits say they think Sumudaerji is going to outstrike Charles Johnson. I don't know how you can be confident in a guy that lost to Matt Schnell in a fight that he was clearly winning and sold badly. I don't know how you can be confident in a Sumudaerji who really hasn't beaten anybody notable, at least not in a long time. His last win is what? Zaruk Adeshev? That's the last win for Sumudaerji? You remember when Zaruk Adeshev came into the UFC? It looked like he had some hype on him coming from kickboxing. My God, he turned out to suck. But besides that point, I'm flaming Adeshev. I'm sorry if you're watching Adeshev. You're catching strays. My bad, my guy. Johnson is going to be able to outwork Sumudaerji. Not only is it about striking technique, which Johnson matches Mudaerji's, but has, I think, more power. On top of that, forget about all that, activity, way more for Johnson. Physical strength, Johnson. Grappling ability, Johnson. UFC fighting experience at this point, it favors Johnson, man. Mudaerji is 3-3 in the UFC. Johnson is sitting at a cool 5-4. I honestly think Charles Johnson has found his stride, and you got to play momentum sometimes too when you're doing predictions and bets and stuff like that, when you have a matchup where there's comparisons. I mean, look at their records. Both guys, as I pop in the Zin for good luck, 16-6 on both sides. But look at it. We have a Charles Johnson who has never been finished. The dude is the definition of a motherfucking dog. On the other side, Sumudaerji has been finished in all of his losses. He seems to be breakable. He seems to have that bit of wilt in his heart where Charles Johnson never backs down from a good fight. And even if you dig into Johnson's losses for a second, they're not bad. Estevam, grappling specialist, just trying to pressure him. Cody Durden, who he's doing well against late, just getting pressure wrestled in that. Ode Osborne, close split decision. He could have won it. That's a bad look. But since then, okay, he's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he's got a knockout of Joshua Van, beat Jake Hadley, and a huge upset over Azat Maxim. Put some respect on Charles Johnson's name now. I think that he's on his way to beating Sumudaerji. Probably live for that decision. He's a minus 210 money line. Decisions plus 130. But Charles Johnson can still crack on the feet. And I do think Mudaerji is a little susceptible to damage. But let me tell you what caught my eye. And many will say I'm crazy. But listen, Mudaerji's got all his losses by sub. Who's to say he's not getting submitted by Charles Johnson? Johnson's got 4 submission wins. Yes, not at the highest level of the sport. He's not doing it in the UFC, but he does have decent enough grappling. Charles Johnson's not a bum in grappling. Submission plus 340. What blew my mind is KO for Johnson's plus 800. Mudaerji was getting stung a little bit against Matt Schnell back in 2022. Since that point, Tim Elliott ran him over with ease and got a submission on him. Charles Johnson has got too much dog from Mudaerji. I think Johnson's going to push a pace, make him uncomfortable. Mudaerji's going to try to be too pretty with it. He's clean from the outside, and he's a guy that's used to having a pretty, serious range advantage. But in this fight here, he's an inch shorter, and yeah, he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, but I'm not so sure that he has the arm length advantage over Charles Johnson. You know what? Totally random note, but I really believe it would be a positive if the UFC added the length of the fist to the end of, the armpit. if they measured in that fashion as opposed to just wingspan, I think that it would, I don't know, tell a little more for us. I think as, breaking down the fights go and being an analyst of the game, knowing reach based on the actual arm length to the end of the fist would be pretty dope. I would be very curious. I'd be very curious about a lot of guys' arm lengths. And I do think Charles Johnson got some long arms. That's really what I'm alluding to. So Charles Johnson for the win. Confident pick. I'm not sold that Sumudaerji is coming out and taking my dude Energy down and out. He's not going to knock him out. He's not going to out-grapple him. He's going to have to outpoint him for 3 rounds? I don't think so. Charles Johnson for the W. Let's keep running. Next up, this one is an over 2.5. Edwards Vidal over 2.5. I had to go for the over at minus 350 with the ladies fight. I'm anticipating that it's going long. I would rather not chase, the Edwards chalky money line side, and then she sells and loses a weird decision to Vidal. But just so you know, if you don't, Edwards is still the pick in this fight. I think Vidal is more of a brawler. Edwards a little cleaner with technique. I say a little and I emphasize a little. Neither one of these girls are making any type of run towards a belt or anything near that. So chill the F out as opposed to betting heavy on either one of them. But the over 2.5 seems pretty sensible. Both girls have been distance in the past. And I do think there's a high probability that the ladies are going into the later stages. Might see some grappling. Edwards probably using a little bit of wrestling, which I think is going to be superior to Vidal. Vidal looking to throw hard, wide shots, but I think Edwards can outstrike her in more of a technical fashion. So that's why I'm riding with the sides. Edwards is the pick, but Vidal Edwards over 2.5 screamed to me. Scream to me, yo, that should be confident. And that's going to be in the confident pick section at minus 350, over 2.5 between the ladies. Let's keep running. Let's talk about a fighter pick right here. Asu Almabayev, minus 185. I'm riding with my guy. I'm riding with Almabayev to win. Earlier in the week, I was a little bit more hesitant, but the more I dug in, the more time I sat on it, I said, you know what? Almabayev simply wants it more than Matthias Nicolau. I don't think that Almabayev understands quit. At this point, he realizes it's now or never to make this run, and his wrestling pressure and control is nasty. And I think that Matthias Nicolau lacks fight-stopping power to make Almabayev fearful of his onslaught. And then I think that we're going to see a chain wrestling pressure attack by Almabayev. I'm going to anticipate this fight goes long. Decision for Almabayev, minus 120. Almabayev money line, minus 185. The only thing I will tell you is Almabayev has 3 KOs. I know he's not a knockout puncher, but Matthias Nicolau has a glass slipper chin, yo. Like, he legitimately is very chinny. And the knockout for Almabayev is all the way up at plus 900. It was something that I wrote down as a must mention. It's purely a degenerate sprinkle because Almabayev winning a decision is the most sensible outcome. This fight, even going over 2.5, would make a lot of sense. But the chin of Nicolau, as bad as it's looked as of late, and the fact that he's getting knocked out a lot, he's been knocked out multiple times now. How many times we got for? Is it all 4 knockout losses? Yeah. 3 in the first round, 1 in the second. So he's never lost a decision before. And even though Almabayev is not necessarily known for his boxing, if he lands a looping punch, even because of his wrestling threat, it might open up. I could see Nicolau going to sleep. Now, this is not a confident absolute knockout call like last week with Tamarov over Vergara, where I said he's going to be the first guy to knock Vergara out, and it came to fruition. This is more of a, hey, it might be there. It's plus 900. There's a chance of it. I know Almabayev is known for wrestling, but if they do strike, it wouldn't blow my mind if he landed the death punch. The side of Nicolau does have good jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt and a legit one. But ultimately, he's never faced off against anybody with Almabayev's pressure wrestling style. So though I normally would rate Matthias Nicolau's wrestling capabilities as relatively good, Against Almabayev, it's too much of an unknown. I could see him being really uncomfortable in the grappling exchanges here and just simply getting outpaced for 3 rounds. And that is why I put Almabayev down as a confident pick. I think he keeps the win streak going and remains undefeated in the UFC. And that is going to close out the most confident pick section. I want to keep it running. I want to jump to my favorite underdogs. Obviously the lock of the week is an underdog, so that becomes my true favorite underdog, but there's 2 more, and I'll bring them up. We got Elise, Ardelean, and we have Darren Elkins. Now, neither of them have necessarily the same level of confidence to Michel Pereira, but both were ones that I went out and picked. Ardelean in a competitive fight against Melissa Martinez. She has a wrestling advantage at plus 105. I do think she's live to win. She looked good in the debut against Shauna Bannon, and that was on 2 weeks' notice. And now she's stepping in, taking on a girl who's taken this fight on short notice. So instead, Ardelean has the upper hand now, and I think it's going to play into her favor. Now, decision is plus 185 for Ardelean, and the over 2.5 at minus 365, all of which seem relatively likely. And note something else. Martinez has not fought in 2 years. In her UFC debut, she lost to Elise Reed. Next up, Darren Elkins, plus 100. I do think this fight's going over 1.5, which is minus 165, and it caught my eye. Elkins has been submitted only once as a pro, and it was against Charles Oliveira. So, though Daniel Pineda has good submission skills, I think Darren Elkins is probably going to escape a tight gilly and end up controlling Pineda with his superior wrestling pressure game and better cardio. So, I like decision for Elkins at plus 350. He's a close money underdog at plus 100. It's, even Stevens line for a reason. Both guys are pit fighters. Both guys are brawlers. Neither guy known for their technical abilities. I would say that with Pineda, you have to look at his track record. He has never won a fight that's gone distance before, and Elkins is a relatively difficult guy to finish, and I don't think Pineda has the boxing chops to chin in Elkins, and I also don't believe he's going to be able to submit him either. So over the course of 3 rounds, I have to lean towards Elkins, who's known for weathering storms and has a proven gas tank, and Pineda has shown that he can fatigue later in fights. So I'm going to go Elkins to win a hard-fought decision at plus 100, but I promise you that is going to be a damn sweaty bet if you're throwing down on the Elkins underdog side. Now, I do want to quickly jump to the Degen Props section. We covered a lot of props with the other segments, but there's a couple props that are not very Degen, but seem pretty high likelihood. Matsumoto by decision. I think he beats Katona on the scorecards. That's minus 120. And then Rebellis Despaigne by KO at minus 375. And for some of you, it might be a surprise that I left Despaigne out of the most confident pick section. But it was more so because of the fact that his only big win is against Josh Parisian, who is relatively a can and has, minimal explosiveness, whereas Austen Lane still is a much better athlete. Despaigne just went distance, losing to Where's Waldo, who I still rate as fairly good. But ultimately, I just thought to myself, Despaigne to win, it's a yes from me. I believe it's going to happen, but I just didn't want to put it in the most confident pick section this week because his track record is unproven and he did get badly exposed in grappling last fight. And if Lane can successfully take down a Rebellis Despaigne, he could kind of copy the blueprint that Waldo laid out and win the decision. But I don't think Lane's nearly as good as Waldo at MMA. He's a bigger guy, though, right? He's 6'6", as opposed to Waldo, who I believe is like 6'4". But Despaine's going to make him uncomfortable and probably chin him. There's plus money on Despaigne. I think it's a good plus money tag if you play him in round number 2. But the way that he fights, it's, balls to the wall, pressure, bombs, looking for the KO early. But just to read it off, round number 2 KO for Rebellis Despaigne sits at plus 450, and then round number 1 sits at minus 130. But either way, Rebellis Despaigne to take it home. It is a relatively confident pick. It was just not in the section, but hey, it gets brought up in the Degen Prop section, so not bad. We got to keep running. We need to jump to the famed, the favorite, the top section, the parlay section. Let's bring it up. These are the parlays for this week, but real quick, check out last week. it was literally W City on all of the quality parlays, man. You look at the bottom one, Royval, Dawson, Temirov, Park, Enja, Kawani, and Garimbo. That was my Degen Savage parlay that hit at plus 1623. So if you did end up tailing last week's parlay, hopefully you didn't blindly tail. Hopefully you listen to me and do your own research if you're actually betting on these fights. But damn, if you did blindly tail, you're still catching a dub. And if you did your research too and agreed with me, we're cashing beautifully. So parlay section currently on fire, and I'm riding that same momentum into this week. So let's ride. Let's do it. First up, at the top, Phillips and Johnson. At minus 121, I think this is relatively safe, and I have a strong feeling that this one does come to fruition. I loved it right off the bat, and it's near even money for two guys that I see with serious advantages in their fights and their most confident picks. Next up, Almabayev and the Edwards Vidal over 2.5. More confident picks. It's plus 101, so it actually brings you to plus money territory. And I also think it's relatively safe. Now, if you don't want to do the Edwards over, maybe you don't want to throw Johnson in, Phillips and Almabayev to win seems really likely at minus 106. I like that one a lot too if you're looking for more of the safer plays. Now, to add in some quality, if you ride with Kyler Phillips, who's a very confident pick, and you ride with the dog lock of Michel Pereira, you get plus 168. This is a quality play if you're looking to jump into that, plus 150 or more territory. Now, if you're looking to go confident picks, you want the 3 play, you go Phillips, Almabayev, and the Edwards Vidal over 2.5 at plus 151. I think it's very quality, and I think the likelihood is super high. Now, if you want to add the steam, this is essentially mixing in the 2 very confident, safe plays that you see at the top with Phillips, Almabayev, the Edwards Vidal over 2.5, and Charles Johnson at plus 266. It's very live with a clean sweep of the most confident picks. Last week, we clean swept the most confident picks, right? There was 5 plus the lock, so 6 clean calls, and I think we can do something similar again this week. Now, to add a little more steam, though, you want underdog with it. Pereira, Phillips, and Almabayev. It brings you to plus 316, so 3-1 territory. That's the money zone. If you want to add some more, you keep the big 3, but you add in Charles Johnson. Now you're at 5-1. That's clean at plus 507. Then I have a little alternate action if you want the Degen prop one. Despaigne by KO and Matsumoto decision at plus 132. Seems like a boom, heavy fire hitter. It seems like a sniper. And last week, it was on the money with the Degen prop section. And I think the same can go for this week. To add in a little value alternate, Pereira with Matsumoto, Despaigne, and the Edwards Vidal over 2.5 rounds if you want plus money territory with an underdog, and then some picks that are relatively high confidence, but 2 of them are, considered alternates of the most confident picks for some of you. That one right there is sitting at a great value line of plus 646, which is teetering towards Degen territory, but has a high likelihood of coming through. Now, adding some more steam and mixing it up. Pereira, Phillips, Almabayev, Johnson, and the Edwards over. So that is a clean sweep of the lock and the most confident pick section, which we did last week. Plus 683 for some nice plus money. Now, if you want more steam, you want a Degen play. Pereira, Phillips, Almabayev, Johnson, the Edwards over 2.5. Despaigne and Matsumoto brings you to plus 1,274. This is Degen. But I got one that's better. I got the Degen Savage call at the bottom. Pereira, Phillips, Almabayev, Johnson, Edwards over 2.5, and Elise Ardelean. You're throwing a lady in there. Now you're sweating heavy. Plus 1622 for a Degen Savage call. And that would be back-to-back weeks hitting that plus 1,600 Degen prop. I think it's live. I understand hesitancy, though, and people might not want to throw Elise Ardelean in it. If you don't want to, I understand. Maybe some of you savages like, yo, give me Darren Elkins instead. That's fine. Good luck if you're doing that. You definitely could win with that. And it's going to be a very similar price tag, which is a beautiful one. That Degen Savage call is calling my damn name. I think we got some fire parlays this week. Last week was Fuego, and I think I'm keeping the consistency, and I think I'm keeping the fire coming for this Vegas 99 card. And I'm really excited to see what comes to fruition. Those are the parlays. I hope you guys enjoyed them. And definitely, I'll always say it. Do your own research if you're throwing some heat down. If you're just throwing a couple bucks, different conversation. But if you are betting with substantial capital, do your due diligence. See where your picks line up with mine for your highest likelihood of success. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's Best MMA Bets. I'm on the road. That's why I'm not in the studio. My cousin's getting married, so I'm pretty excited. And I'll have fire content every day, per usual content schedule. And I have that linked up in the description if you're curious when everything's dropping on the channel. Much love to the people. I appreciate you all. Smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on so you don't miss a video. And let me know what you thought of everything in the comments. Let me know your lock of the week. Are you going dog money or are you going chalky locky? I understand a lot of people are going to go chalky locky this week. So definitely let me know in the comments. Now, if you have nothing to say in the comments, but you just enjoy the content, as always, W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.